Welcome to Dark True Crime. A tragic incident occurred recently involving a South Korean plane. Jeju Air Flight 2216 crashed at Muin International Airport, resulting in the deaths of 179 out of the 181 people on board. The plane skidded off the runway and collided with a concrete wall, causing a fire. The exact cause of the crash is still under investigation, but authorities have suggested possibilities such as a bird strike. This incident has been described as South Korea's worst aviation disaster in decades. The tragic crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 occurred on December 29, 2024 at approximately 9:03 local time, 0:03 Greenwich Mean Time. What happened in the South Korean plane crash? Here is what we know. Jeju Air Flight 7C2216 departed from Bangkok, Thailand, and approached its scheduled landing Sunday at Muin International Airport in southern South Korea. After an initial failed landing attempt, the Boeing 737-800 received a bird strike warning from the ground control center. It then ascended again before trying to land a second time. 2 minutes later, the plane's crew sent a distress signal and attempted to land on a different runway. The plane touched down 3 minutes later without lowering its nose landing gear. It skidded along the runway at high speed, overshot the end of the runway, and slammed into a concrete fence, bursting into a fireball. The only survivors were 2 crew members rescued from the tail section. One of the survivors, identified as Lee, 33, was seated near the rear of the plane and has no memory of the events beyond the moment of touchdown. The other survivor, a female flight attendant surnamed Gu, 25, also has limited recollection of the crash. Both are currently receiving medical care and are expected to remain under observation. Lee is awake and talking to medical staff, according to a hospital official. Lee told doctors he had already been rescued when he regained consciousness following Sunday's fiery crash at the Muin International Airport. Ju Woong, director of the UO Women's University Seoul Hospital, said during a news conference on Monday. Here is the timeline update by official. The crash unfolded just before 9 a.m. local time on Sunday, December 29, 2024 at the Muin International Airport after the air traffic control tower gave the flight crew permission to land on a south-to-north runway. According to an official timeline by the Korean Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport, the plane ascended and made a 180-degree turn before descending from the north side, crash landing and slamming into a wall at 9:03 a.m., the ministry said. As of 1 p.m. local time, authorities said the plane had completely burned. A temporary morgue was being set up at the airport. By about 8 p.m., the official death toll had climbed to 176 people, the National Fire Agency said. 83 of the dead were women and 82 were men, the agency said, adding that another 11 bodies remained unidentified. According to the flight manifest, there were 5 children under 10 years old on the flight, the youngest of them 3 years old.
온전한 시신이 거의 없습니다. 그래서 이제 또 우리가 현장에서 시신하고 별도로 시신 편들도 많이 수거를 했습니다. 이제 그게 어떤 정말 시신 편들도 있습니다. 근데 그 부분이 누구 건지 우리가 현장에서 수거한 거는 이게 누구 건지 일일이 넘버링을 해서 번호를 매겨서 국가수에 거의 감정 의뢰를 하고 그 DNA 결과가 나와야 누구 거라는 게 확인이 되고 그래야 이제 검안이 끝나서 인도가 됩니다. 빨리 인도를 할 만한 그런 온전한 시신이 지금 현재 상태로는 거의 없습니다.
A pre-flight inspection of a Jeju Air passenger plane, conducted hours before it crashed in South Korea and resulted in the deaths of 179 people, revealed no issues, according to the airline. The airline CEO, Kim Hee-bae, stated at a news conference in Seoul that nothing abnormal was noted with the landing gear. Investigations are ongoing to determine why the wheels were not down during the emergency landing. The plane, traveling from Bangkok, crash-landed at Muin International Airport on Sunday, slid into a wall at the end of the runway, and burst into flames, unaliving everyone on board except 2 crew members. Investigators are still working to identify the victims and establish the cause of South Korea's deadliest air crash. Many questions remain unanswered, and investigators are examining the possibility of a bird strike or weather conditions playing a role. They are also focusing on why the Boeing 737-800 did not have its landing gear down when it hit the runway shortly after 9 o'clock local time, midnight GMT on Sunday. Hundreds of grieving relatives have been camping out at the airport in Muin, frustrated that they have not yet seen the bodies of their loved ones.
김양태님, 양유경님, 박연수님, 양유정씨, 박연수씨, 전경미씨, 윤봉호씨, 지금까지 22명을 다시 배용기님, 박은정님, 이행자님.
So far, only a few victims' remains have been released to their families. On Tuesday, 4 were transported to funeral homes, but most other families are still waiting for their loved ones to be identified. Addressing questions about the company's safety procedures, Jeju Air CEO Kim Hee-bae said the plane would not have been cleared for takeoff if the maintenance team had not signed off on its safety. He emphasized that the pilots were trained to regulation standards and that the company had 2 full flight simulators. He also mentioned that the number of maintenance workers per airplane had increased from 12 in 2019 to 12.9. Kim stated that the airline would reduce its air traffic this winter by 10 to 15% to carry out more maintenance work on the planes. But this was not an admission that the company was running too many planes. He added that they would increase their monitoring of weather before and after flights. Kim acknowledged that over the past 5 years, Jeju Air had paid the most fines and faced the most administrative action of any Korean airline, but said the company was consistently improving its safety record. He committed to strengthening the company's safety and maintenance procedures and aimed to repair trust by enhancing safety measures. The airline is preparing emergency compensation for the victims' families and covering the cost of the funerals. The money will be released soon, before the insurance process is completed. Company employees are on site to provide psychological counseling to the families. The 179 passengers on Flight 7C-2216 range in age from 3 to 78 years old, with most in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. 2 Thai nationals are among the dead, and the rest are believed to be South Korean. Many relatives are frustrated with the lengthy process of identifying victims' bodies, but officials say it is challenging due to the severe burns sustained in the fire after the crash. One man at the airport said his nephew and his 2 sons had been on a celebratory trip to Thailand to mark the end of the college entrance exams. All 3 died on the flight. "I can't believe the entire family has just disappeared," said Meng Jai-soo, 78. "My heart aches so much." The runway at Muin International Airport will remain closed for another week, while forensic teams collect more remains and debris. Investigators began inspecting the plane's 2 black boxes, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, on Tuesday. The second device is missing a critical connector, making it more difficult to extract the data, which could prolong the search for answers. Officials are also examining regulations around a concrete barrier that the plane smashed into when it skidded beyond the end of the runway. Meanwhile, New Year's celebrations in South Korea have been either canceled or scaled back as the country observes a week of national mourning for the victims of the tragedy. The annual bell-ringing show in Seoul will instead be a quiet one, with no performances and a moment of silence. On Tuesday, the Seoul Metropolitan Government imposed a 6-month suspension of operations for a company that went ahead with a fireworks display on Monday, despite a request to cancel the event following the disaster. Hyundai Cruise apologized amid public backlash, and the suspension order means the company will be barred from operating cruise ships on the Han River until June. The tragic crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 at Muin International Airport teaches us several important lessons. 1. Bird strike awareness. The need for preventive measures against bird strikes. 2. Emergency preparedness. The importance of thorough training for pilots and crew. 3. Infrastructure safety. Ensuring airport structures minimize damage and accidents. 4. Maintenance and inspections. Continuous improvement in maintenance protocols. 5. Communication and coordination. Effective communication between pilots, air traffic control, and emergency services. 6. Support for victims' families. Providing timely and compassionate support to grieving families. By learning from these lessons, the aviation industry can work towards preventing similar tragedies in the future and ensuring the safety of passengers and crew. Our heartfelt condolences go out to the families and friends of the victims of the Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think and leave your comment below. Hit that like button and the notification bell if you like the video. We upload videos every week. Take care.